in the UK, we're definitely living in a little bubble. A lot of us live in complete ignorance when like these third world countries are going through so much worse. People don't even have a roof over their heads. People complain here when we have everything we could ever want or need. As you know, my name is Mona. I'm 23 and I'm a competitive powerlifter. I've recently also completed a degree and I'm going to be a pharmacist, hopefully, fingers crossed, by the end of the year. Doctors are very quick to prescribe unnecessary medications. A lot of medications, right, they mask the symptoms, but they don't treat the cause. I understand everyone's brains work differently, and some people really don't have the capacity or the strength in themselves to deal with the problem alone or therapy, or in my opinion, I would stay away from any sort of mind-altering medications that I could see myself dealing with just without them, basically, is what I'm trying to say. My mum's been two parents in one. You know, some people ask you, do you feel like there's a hole in your life because you don't have you don't have a dad? Like, do you feel like you're missing something? But really, I mean, I've had just the one parent and an amazing parent since I was 2 years old. That's all I've ever known.
Before you get stuck into this podcast, I just want to say, first of all, thank you to every single person that has supported the Lion Mind so far. The response has been amazing. It's been overwhelming, and I really, really thank you for everything that you guys have supported with so far. This podcast today was, very unique and special in its own ways, and I'm sure, you will enjoy the podcast. We delved into quite a lot of things that I never knew about Mona, and, she was really nervous of coming on to the podcast today, but I think she absolutely was amazing, and she still thinks that she was a nervous wreck after even speaking to her. But we went into quite a lot about her upbringing, some quite disturbing stuff, I guess, for her as she grew up, some trauma with her brother, which, now thankfully is in a very, very good place. She also has ADHD, so we spoke about some things around that. She's also studying and soon to be a pharmacist, so that's also something that's going to be, wicked for her journey going forward, and something that she understands a lot about within the pharmaceutical world. So guys, I really hope you enjoy the podcast. Again, thank you for supporting us, and please make sure that you share as much as you possibly can, because I want to reach as many people as we can across the world. I just want to stop the podcast for a second here, just to mention Silverback Gymwear. These guys are sponsoring the podcast, and I want you to know how good their quality of clothing is. And they've just launched at the moment the new women's brand, so jump onto their website, have a look for could be a wife, could be a daughter, could be a mother, whoever you want to buy it for, or it could be you if you're a female watching this and listening. But please go and check them out. Their quality is really, really good, and they've got so many different colours and different designs to choose from. Now, quickly, before I start this, please share and subscribe to our channels. Already the momentum that we've built up has been insane. The feedback has been amazing, and I really want to make sure that we're, continuing to push the vibe of exactly what this is about. But let's get stuck into it today. Today I have Mona. I can't help but say Mona Lisa. It's definitely not Mona Lisa. You're actually better than Mona Lisa. You got more about you. But no, is it Shafi? I want to say
Shafi. Yeah, that's
Shafi.
right.
So Mona, Shafi, welcome to the Lion Mind.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast.
It's an absolute pleasure.
To be honest, I'm so nervous.
That's good.
I'm really nervous, but hopefully it should be an interesting one.
It always will be. But honestly, I promise you now, and I'm sure you'll listen to this back and hear yourself say this, but by the end of it, you will absolutely have loved it, and it will be something that you can say, I'm pleased I did.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt it, honestly.
I promise you.
Yeah.
So let's kick off with who you are and, I guess, what you do.
Okay. As you know, my name is Mona. I'm 23, turning 24 next month, and I'm a competitive powerlifter.
Yeah.
I've recently also completed a degree, and I'm going to be a pharmacist, hopefully, fingers crossed, by the end of the year.
Amazing.
Yeah. That's it, really.
So let's kick off with the powerlifting side of things.
Okay.
obviously, I want to sort of like cover this to say that this podcast is not about sport. I think a lot of people think it's all about that, but we have to speak about this because I want you to be recognised as who you are. But you're an IPF powerlifter. For anyone that doesn't know, IPF is the top of the top in powerlifting in the tested federation. And I've got on here 47 and 52 kg.
Yeah.
So is 47 the lightest, or is that not the lightest?
No, actually 43 is. I don't think there's a single 43 powerlifter now.
Oh, really?
There was one. She's really strong, but she's moved up now. So
Right, good.
Yeah. No.
I'm glad she's not gone down.
Yeah, honestly. No, I mean, girls, you generally find really, really small women, less than 5 foot. It's easy to make that weight class. Honestly,
it is crazy though, because it's like, I'm trying to think how I'm like 3 of you, just under. But yeah, like to think like that though, like how much you weigh, it's like insane to think. But then obviously I see your numbers because you train at my gym, and they're very, very impressive.
Thank you.
But with your I've got you on here as 2 times British champ for juniors.
That's right.
Yeah, and then obviously the deadlift record. British
Yes.
deadlift record.
Yeah, that's
juniors. Right. Yeah. So juniors is under 23, am I right?
Yeah, that's right.
So you compete in that? Yeah, you're 23 now, sorry.
Yeah, I am. It's
And
a bit weird
you can compete
though.
until you're 24th.
So no, I actually can't compete as a junior anymore. The way it works is the year that you turn 23, you get till the end of that year. So I turned 23 August last year. I had until December last year to compete as a junior. So now I'm in the open.
I'm pretty sure, I might be wrong now, but I'm pretty sure in strongman, the under 23s you can compete until you're 24, and that's why. But which doesn't make sense because then you're not under 23. But that's another conversation.
You have people like 107 that compete.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just, but anyway, mind blowing. So, right, why was you 47 and then 52? Have you gone up now to 52?
Yes.
Or,
yeah.
cool.
Since my last competition in December, I think it was December, Euros. I decided finally it was time to move up a weight class.
Yeah.
I think my body naturally sat in the 50s anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, basically, I think what happened was I went through my first breakup and I just lost a ton of weight. And then I was sitting at around 47. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to be a 47. I liked how lean I was, and it was pretty easy making that weight, for competitions.
So you wasn't cutting to be that way.
No, I wasn't. But then with time, from gaining muscle mass, I hope, and it was just getting more and more difficult to sort of cut for competitions, and it was getting really stressful as well. I just didn't see any point in sort of holding myself back when I know that I could be a lot stronger if I just let myself sort of naturally sit where I should be sitting.
Yeah. You hear this so often, don't you? And I don't know if you listened to the last podcast with Chloe. She was exactly the same, and I was actually saying to her on that podcast that I was exactly the same when I was 90s to 105s.
Yeah.
I think you just get to that point where you go, I'm just going to grow. And as well, I really, really want to mention something, because that comment that we had the other day from a woman, I won't say who it is because it's not about calling people out, but I had a comment of somebody saying, "Did you really just ask a woman their weight?"
Oh yeah, I see.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Now,
No, I didn't.
Oh right, okay. So
I did see the podcast though.
Right.
Yeah.
So I the thing is, I always hit things in the face like this, right? Because let's be honest, right? This woman, God bless her, I don't know her, and she's clearly annoyed by that comment because
maybe misunderstood as well.
it was misunderstood.
Yeah, I think
of course
it was
it
a
was. Of course it was.
Yeah.
But this, and the reason why I say this, and this is for for people listening as well, because we live in a world right now where people are so shitty, and quick to jump on the back of something because they don't like the thought or sound of it, when actually they haven't got the information, which is like exactly what happened there.
Lack of context, completely.
Yeah, like to ask. And my point was here, I'm just going to dig into it for a second because I like to get my point across with things like this, right? But my point here is, so she shared it saying like it's wrong. Basically, it's wrong. What did she put? Something along the lines, it was wrong to mention that in a certain way, shape, or form, right?
Would you ask a guy?
Would you ask? Yeah. Would you ask a guy their weight or something like that? It's like
Well, if they're competing in
does
weight
not-
classes,
correct.
then I don't see any.
It does
problem
not
with
matter,
asking.
man, woman, or whatever you want to claim yourself to be, because there's many different sexes nowadays, or genders. But it does not matter if you're in a weight category. It matters, and it's as simple as that. So quite simply, when you're looking at sort of like, the weight categories of what we're in, it's important to know where you're at, isn't it, with your body weight?
Well, exactly, and also with powerlifting or strength sports, pound for pound, that's what matters.
Yeah.
You want to know so like as a powerlifter, you want to know what total you can hit
Yeah.
at what body weight.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense to me. I guess, like you said, it's just misunderstanding.
I agree. It was completely misunderstood. Yeah.
But
I just find it sad that people like this jump the gun without the information, understanding. I know that's the whole point of misunderstanding something, but still to then categorise everyone else. But what people like that are doing are actually, this is the last thing I'll say because then we'll move on.
Yeah.
But what people like that are actually doing without realising, they're poisoning other people. And that's my issue there, because they're actually poisoning the next person. So she's going to tell her mate, oh, this person's said this and it's wrong. Her mate's then going to go, shit, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to say? And then you have that knock-on effect of negativity, when actually go back to the meaning of it and understand it, and then you can pass on some good news rather than bad news.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll draw the line.
Okay.
Just needed to get that out there.
Question for you guys. Yeah?
Go on.
What do you think is more organised, powerlifting or strongman?
What's more organised?
Organised.
Definitely.
First-
More professional, more organised. I'd definitely say powerlifting.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Do you know what? It's something that strongman doesn't like. If you talk to strong men, and obviously we always have the banter between strongman and powerlifting, right? To be like, powerlifters are nerds and whatever else gets thrown at them, just number people. But like with powerlifting, it's very cliquey, isn't it? Yeah, and it's very not in a negative way. It's just very cliquey. It's just like if you're a powerlifter, you're a powerlifter sort of thing. And within the sport, it's very well organised, and that can also have a bad rep, because from the strongman people, it's like, oh, you can't do it though. And actually, that people in strongman, I'll openly say this, but people in strongman like to say about powerlifters being too cliquey, too PC, too rule based. When actually, that's what makes it a good sport in a way.
Yeah,
because it's like,
100%.
if you didn't have the rules, then it would fall apart. So I will happily say that powerlifting has a better outlook on how they run it.
People say that the rules are are too strict in powerlifting, but if you don't have these rules in place, then how people just get away
You
with
bend it left, right, centre.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, of course.
Is it not? So it's not like that in strongman.
No, from the outside, I think strongman looks very well organised. The shows are well organised. I'm not going to say they're not, but when it comes to, there's a lot of changes and rule tweaks and stuff like that. Do you know what I'm trying to say? There's not a God-written book that says this is how you do strongman.
Whereas we have the IPF rulebook, don't we?
Yeah.
But that is constantly changing.
Yeah, and that's that shitty bit for you, isn't it? Where it's like the bench thing not longer. I think it benefited
No,
some,
but
but
I
not
think
others.
I think that what they did was really good, because it was becoming a little bit of a joke. No offense to.
Oh no, I agree.
No,
like
obviously,
we
it's-
have to laugh at it because it's like we don't bench, so we
But
can.
when your range of motion is 1-2 centimeters.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's not fair to the rest of the people.
Yeah.
I understand leverages really play a big role into leverages play a big role in the sport, but and short femurs, short arms, your range of motion is going to be smaller than the next
Just
person.
really quickly on that,
Yeah.
what's the sumo thing all about then?
You know what? I actually don't think it's cheating.
Oh,
I don't.
Hold on a minute.
I actually don't. There was really no point in asking me that. I think.
It's not cheating. Of course, it's not cheating.
No, I mean, you're using different muscle groups. Like, I've tried sumo. It doesn't suit me, if I'm honest. I'm generally... I mean, I've been doing conventional since, the beginning of my powerlifting, career.
Yeah.
And it suits me well. Some people, they're built better for a sumo,
Yeah, agreed.
sumo stance.
But let's be honest, though. If you do a conventional deadlift, it's more impressive, right?
I don't want to be rude.
I mean, let's be honest.
I think it's equally as impressive.
So why don't you do?
Someone who does sumo 500 can do it conventional.
Yeah, so
All right, fairs. Yeah. It's slightly more impressive to do
Yeah.
conventional. Yeah, I agree.
I'm
Because
glad we
it's
cleared
just
that one up.
raw, like you're just using your raw back muscles, isn't it? Just to
Oh,
pick up that weight.
Yeah, there's no better way of saying that. I agree.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. So obviously your career has been insane so far to understand, because I did a little bit of research about you. So no, it's wicked. But hope you success in everything you do
Thank
within
you.
your powerlifting side as well. So where are you from?
So I was born here in Kent,
Yeah.
but I am Iranian. Family all brought up in Iran.
Yep.
So yeah, we speak Farsi. I'm not very fluent in it though, unfortunately. But yeah,
Did your so you were born here,
I was born here.
and did you go back home, or would you call that home? I guess would you call here home?
I think here is home. It's
Yeah.
what I've always known. My entire life I've been living in the UK. I have visited Iran a couple of times, but it was when I was really young. So
Have you got an Iranian passport?
I don't actually know. Do I? I might do.
The UK passport has a lot of power, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, true. My mum does, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your family setup? Is your mum here?
Yeah, so my mum moved here when she was fairly young. When she was married to my dad, they moved here for work. And then gradually, like her siblings and my other relatives, they sort of migrated to UK with time. It was actually quite difficult. I remember my mum her family telling me how my cousins had to move to UK and live under our roof, while my auntie was fighting for a visa to come live here, to come work here. And now, she's doing really well. She's a gynecologist, sorry.
Here or home?
Here
or
in
right,
UK, yeah. So, but it was difficult for my family. Yeah.
What sort of year would that have been though? Because years ago it was quite different, wasn't it? With
God, yeah, it might have been like 15 years ago at least. Yeah, I think things have changed now. Well, as of recently, so.
Yeah. So father.
My dad's in Iran. Long story short, he's avoiding bailiff.
Yeah.
So he's just hiding, I guess, in Iran.
So obviously you're still in contact and.
No, once a year he'll send me an email.
Really?
Yeah. So he had, affairs. Sorry, what am I trying to say? He had affairs when he was with my mum, and
so they split and.
So they split when I was really young. My whole life, my mum's been two parents in one kind of thing. She's been amazing. So I don't really, some people ask you, do you feel like there's a hole in your life because you don't have you don't have a dad? Like, do you feel like you're missing something? But really, I've had just the one parent, and an amazing parent, since I was 2 years old. That's all I've ever known. So
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Because obviously you will understand what people mean when they say that, but ultimately it's what you're programmed to know.
Exactly.
And to feel like you don't know the difference, do you? So,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, this is normal. One parent. That's normal to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you? I don't know. Do you feel angry at your dad or anything like that, or is it more like a?
No, not really. Obviously, I'm upset for my mum because I've seen, growing up, I've seen what these affairs and the abuse has done to her, and she carries so much PTSD and trauma from my dad. So it's really upsetting to see how he's what sort of an impact he has had on my mum over the years. But I don't feel anything for him. I don't, honestly.
Yeah. No, but there's nothing. I can understand exactly why. You can have a very cut off feeling, can't you? Because it's that whole he's never been there as such.
Yeah, he's never really been there. Exactly. I feel pretty disconnected from it all. He's just, he's just a man that I know that lives in Iran. That's about. Yeah. That's literally all it is.
And does your mum speak, or do you not?
Does my mum speak to him?
Yeah.
Oh no.
That's completely
She's put that behind her.
And how many have you got brothers, sisters?
I've got one brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have one half brother from my dad's second marriage, actually.
Right.
I don't see him very much. He keeps to himself. That's a whole other story. I think he has abandonment issues from the way that my dad just fled, like left his family and just fled the country. So, but we're trying to make an effort to just show him that, you know,
You're here.
we're here,
Yeah.
and we're family, basically.
So where does he live, or do you not?
He's also in Kent with,
Right.
yeah, not too far away from us. So.
Okay, so it's not like he's miles away or anything like that.
No, yeah.
So, you grew up with? Did your mum have a partner?
Yeah, she did. Not a great one. Caused us a lot of stress for most of my upbringing, if I'm honest. Same goes to my brother, because he had epilepsy. He was diagnosed with epilepsy from the age of 9.
Your mum's partner?
My brother.
Your brother, sorry.
Yeah,
right,
my brother. Epilepsy since he was 9, and obviously all that stress, it can trigger a lot of seizures, and it's not exactly the best environment to be in when you have that sort of condition. So, yeah, it wasn't ideal.
So does he still suffer with them now? Or?
He's actually had brain surgery twice.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They managed to remove the defect, like the defective tissue in his brain, and now he's seizure free. He's been seizure free for a couple of years now, which is amazing. Yeah.
So, did they do that keyhole, or did they cut in the skull? Because you can go keyhole now.
Into the skull.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a bit nuts.
Yeah, I only know because my mum's had brains, which had an aneurysm, and they went through like her leg up the main artery, which is insane for your brain.
That is insane.
It's just like, obviously when my mum went in, you know, she had an aneurysm, and there was people on that ward with obviously scars on the head and head shaved. Obviously on top of the trauma you're already going through, you see that, you know, for a woman to be cut, you know what I mean, head. And then we were like, wow, but if it's got to happen, it's got to happen. But then they were like, no, actually, we can go through the leg. It's like, whoa.
That's
It's
amazing.
just insane, isn't it? Like, to know that yeah. So he had a brain operation, and then has he literally been like the same person since? And
He's been so much better.
really?
Yeah, because his epilepsy was quite severe. He was on God knows how many medications, and none of them would work. I think he has like a rare form of epilepsy. One of the first few patients to have it, where like basically none of the medical options or medical treatment options were working for him, and you know he would never get a good night's sleep. At most, probably get 3 hours a night since he was 9 until 28. Exactly, yeah, because he'd have fits throughout the night. So I saw it when he came out of surgery, and he was, you know, recovered after a few weeks. I just saw like it completely changed him as a person. He was just so much happier. Like people underestimate the power of sleep, like a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
But he's a much happier person now.
And do you think that's literally down to sleep deprivation? In and around.
Mostly, definitely, mostly, yeah. But
so you know when he came out, was he not brain damaged as such? But do you know what I mean? Was he? Did he have like any brain defect in any way? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Because it's such a delicate procedure, I guess. Like, he was so lucky. There were, I think, 3 or 4 other people in that ward. One of the patients completely lost feeling on the right or left side of their body. Another person lost their speech completely, and he was honestly so lucky. But you know, when he'd been suffering for that many years, when the doctors, you know, sort of suggested surgery, he said, you know what, I'd rather take my chances than to have to live with this condition for the rest of my life. And yeah, it was really scary. It was really scary.
As well, how old was he again? Sorry. Did you say 9?
He's 30 now.
Yeah.
I think he had his first procedure at 26, and then his second one at 28 or something like that.
But to hear that from him, to say that I'd rather have surgery.
Yeah, he'd rather risk losing his life, I guess.
Yeah, know that somebody said that is like pretty insane.
You know that someone's suffering if they say something like that. Do you know what I mean?
How, like, you know, obviously, like with going through that, did that make you feel like better for him? Do you know what I mean? Because he's obviously his brother, isn't he? Right?
I was really relieved. So happy for him. There are times where actually there was this one time it really traumatized me. When I was younger, we came to visit our family a few cities away, so several hours away from home, and he had realised that he'd forgotten all of his medication, and he was basically, his brain was shutting down. We were in A&E. He like wandered on his own to try and find A&E. He couldn't talk anymore, and by the time that he sat down in the waiting room at A&E, he couldn't move anymore. His brain was literally shutting down, all because he just didn't have his medication. It's honestly the power of medication is
to surgery.
Prior to surgery.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and I remember the receptionist. We were just begging for him to be seen by a doctor. We were saying all he needs is his drugs. That's all he needs. Just let a doctor see him. And she looked at him from her desk and said, "He looks fine to me." Wow. And I was crying. I was so scared.
How much time had she spent with him in her life before?
Oh, the receptionist.
To say he looks fine for me, like that's insane.
You can't just judge like a person.
Does their job just for the money.
But this is it, right?
Isn't it?
Clock in, clock out.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was really scary.
But then, well, he got seen to then?
He got seen to after my mum was causing a scene, just begging to be seen by the doctor. Eventually, they called his name. They took him in. They had to physically carry his body and put it into a wheelchair. And
was he not able to speak?
He couldn't talk.
Wow. He
wasn't registering at all. We would look at him and he wasn't looking back. He was in his own world. He was just shutting down. It's really scary.
It is. I've said this before on the podcast, but like when my mum had her aneurysm, we had a stage where she was just looking at us and she just didn't know who we were. She couldn't speak. You know that thought of like your own blood?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like looking at you and just like looking through you and it's
so upsetting. It's so scary. Well, how old were you when...
Well, it was like 7 years ago that she had it, so yeah. But we was like, well, it felt like we was living in the hospital at that point. Yeah, when it's obviously back then, you know, I'm sure you know what it's like, but yeah.
But she's all fine and well.
Yeah, if my mum walked in now, you'd think I was lying. She's a miracle, right? That's again, it just shows what the brain does.
Yeah.
But no, I guess right now you can look back and be thankful for everything that's, you know what I mean, everything that's happened and now the place that he's in at least.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for the NHS as well. It would have been very expensive if we were to live in another country where we didn't have the funding.
Well,
yeah, back home.
Would you? Yeah, I was gonna say, would you got the support in Iran? Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So that's why it's not. I understand what people are saying, but I just don't. People take the NHS for granted.
Completely. They do, but you know what? I have quite a double-sided view on it because quite simply, people slag off the NHS, right, for the shit they do wrong. But then people forget that the NHS does such a good job. But it's a little bit like, I know this is a very different way of putting it, but it's a little bit like you saying you're going to cook my dinner, right? And you miss the main part of my dinner, the steak. Do you know what I'm saying?
People
like,
really good at
it sounds
on
stupid, but it's a bit
bit,
like, but you missed my steak, and then what was the point of cooking my dinner? And that's how people look at NHS, right? You're here to do a job, and you're not doing your job properly.
Guess,
but actually, people forget to be grateful, don't they, for them actually really being there, as opposed to a country that wouldn't have them. But it's hard to feel like that because we don't live in a different country, isn't it? Yeah,
that's the thing. We were brought up comfortably, you know. We didn't go through, well, in this generation at least. I just think because it's what we're used to, you know.
Yeah. But it's
we grew up with money, and we grew up with, you know, options and opportunities and Uber.
It's true though, ain't like
Uber Eats.
all your food is here within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And back in the day, you have to hunt for your food.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
That's if you eat.
So that's another thing. Like, it's important to be grateful, but it's really hard to know how to be grateful when this is all you know.
yeah, it's very true. It's very true.
Yeah. That's why I feel like it's important to go back home.
Yeah.
And you see the raw.
Yeah.
And when I went back home, that's how I feel.
Yeah,
like
it's true.
That is
when you
true.
see, and as well, obviously a different way of looking at it, but it's good to travel different countries, right?
100%.
Because you travel different countries and you realise, and typically, I guess it's a snob sort of way of looking at things, but typically you go to a different country, you're like, oh, I don't like this, don't like that, don't like this, don't like that. It's like, well, you're in their country. Like, and that's how their country is, you know. It's just because it's different to how we live, and people struggle with that change, don't they?
In the UK, we're definitely living in a little bubble. A lot of us live in complete ignorance.
Yeah.
When, like, these third world countries are going through so much worse. People don't even have a roof over their heads. But do you know what? They're happy.
Yeah.
I've seen some documentaries of, say, like the slums in Lagos, and they're just always smiling. But then again, that's what they're used to, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's very true.
It's just crazy, isn't it?
It'd be awesome
and then people complain here when we have everything we could ever want or need. You know, we live so comfortably. It's I don't know. It just makes you think. It just makes you think about things.
No, it does. It does. But that's as well something that we're never going to be able to teach unless someone was to learn it themselves.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier on that you lived with your mum's partner growing up. What was that sort of like setup, and how did you feel with another man in your house? Do you know what I mean? That sort of different type of...
Definitely wasn't used to it. Like I said, I grew up without a father figure for, you know, most of my upbringing, or for my whole upbringing actually. And then he just decided to move in with my mum, obviously joint decision. And yeah, it was weird. My brother and I weren't completely comfortable with it, but, you know, if my mum was happy, that's all that mattered, really. Where the thing is, though, obviously we came to realise that my mum wasn't actually happy, and then
happy with him.
He wasn't. Yeah, she wasn't happy with him, and it just became more and more of like a toxic household.
Really?
Yeah.
So was he from over here?
He's from back home, from Kent.
Right. Sorry, when I say over here, I meant as in England, UK. Sort of
Oh,
thing.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, he's English. Yeah. When did he move in? He moved in when I was around 12, maybe 12 years old. So just starting secondary school. Wait, sorry.
Push that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's fine. All I can say is I was very excited to go to uni and escape home. Pretty much, my brother was the same. Every night he was away from the house, not because he enjoyed going out with his friends, but because he couldn't stand what we were dealing with back home.
Really?
All the stress. Yeah. Thankfully, my mom and him have split up. Unfortunately, it took, you know, having the police to get involved for that to happen. But it's fine. It's, you know, it's behind us now, and we're a lot happier. So yeah.
Like, if you don't mind me asking, like, what was toxic? What was actually... Obviously, you seen your mum in a bad place then, maybe?
So... Sorry. Oh my God. Sorry. Let me just think for a second. God, it's so hard to put into what that I could talk about this guy for hours and still only sort of get into 1% of what we've gone through in those 12 years that he was in our family. All I can say was that he was very controlling, very abusive, verbally, emotionally, and he was basically a classic sociopath, you know, just out to try and destroy our family, tear our family apart, and just use us, manipulate us to get what he wants. We were kids though, so we didn't really have an understanding until, you know, after we had moved out and, you know, sort of had time to reflect and realise really what was going on. But
is that, I guess that you being out of the situation made you understand what it was like?
Definitely.
Then inside, yeah?
So I guess we were so preoccupied with just being stressed and having to just deal with what was going on in the house. We never really had the time to just think about it, sort of outside of what we were going through. yeah, it was not great. That's all I can say.
So was he abusive to you?
Yeah, he was. Typically before I was 16, he used to, you know, I don't think I need to mention it, but there were things that he did that was what you would term grooming. And he was also, you know, he used to stalk me all the time whenever I'd leave the house, and it was more like a control thing. He wanted to be in control of everything and everyone. Yeah, it is what it is. Different person now. It definitely built some character, and yeah, it's just.
Obviously, if you don't mind, touching into that sort of stuff, because I think there's a lot of people across the world that experience some form of grooming, experience. And did you know it was happening to you?
See, the thing is, because I was young back then, and I was constantly exposed to it, that I thought it was just normal, but I knew that I wasn't. What I was experiencing, I didn't feel okay, but I was a child and I didn't know any better, and I just accepted it for what it was. But I knew, deep down, there was a negative feeling inside of me that, something's not right here, but I don't know what it is. And then obviously it took me until I went to university to realise really the gravity of what I was going through, and I didn't realise that I was carrying some PTSD from that, where, I couldn't even let another man touch me and not flinch or feel extremely uncomfortable by it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And have you had any therapy support or anything like that, or is it more self-driven?
It was definitely a bit of both. I had really good friends that helped me sort of open up and overcome what I was feeling and what I was going through, and then through self-reflection, just giving myself time to really think about, because the thing is, when you go through experiences, you shouldn't just push it away. You should really just be in the moment and think about what's going on, because that's the only way to move on from things, to accept and to, I guess, to reflect and to learn. I'm not saying what I did was a mistake. I'm just saying learn more about myself and the world, I guess.
When you say what you did was a mistake, are you reflecting to you allowing it to happen?
No, not necessarily. What I meant was, I didn't want, when I said to learn from my experiences, I didn't want it to sound like it was like me that made the mistake. I was a kid,
yeah.
I didn't know any better.
But that's where I'm going.
Yeah.
Because and this is where it's so hard, isn't it? Because obviously, I'm sure you know, I've got a 3-year-old boy, a 7-year-old girl, and all that. I think every parent has this thought of it, but all that ever goes through your head is, I want to protect them for everything they do. It's actually my therapist, Anna, once said to me, and it's always stuck in my head, that you can never protect them. Do you know what I mean? You've just got to try and guide them.
Definitely.
And it's a really important and powerful thing to think about, isn't it? You can't protect people because you are not them. And sometimes you can't even protect yourself. So you know what I'm trying to say? So that thought of when someone tries to protect their daughter or their son, actually you've just got to try and guide them because you can't control them.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah,
it's a difficult one, because as a parent, I mean, I don't have children myself, but can only imagine the thoughts and the feelings that you have to try and make sure that your kids, don't go towards any danger and that they're safe. But it's so difficult to, you can't control everything that they are exposed to.
No.
You just, like you said, you just have to try and guide them in the right direction and hope that they can.
I think the problem is, if you try too hard, you're going to lose, and that's the point, isn't it? If you try and control everything, it's like some of the shit. If my mum and my dad isn't close to me, but if my mum knew some of the stuff that or half the stuff, or even 1% of the stuff that she doesn't know. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Though it's like she'd probably like be like, "Fuck, I didn't even know any of this." But there's certain things in there in life, and as you're growing up, that you just do that are stupid, and you just go, "Okay, I've learned not to do that again." Do you know what I'm trying to say? But then on the other side of it, on the you know, like the safety sort of side of life, if you want to put it like that, there's obviously then things that we do that are stupid and that are not safe, and then you go, "Okay, I won't do that again." You know, and you sort of
at least you learn from those experiences.
Yeah.
Like that's why I say reflection is really important.
It is.
Can I ask?
Go.
Can you tell me a little bit about why you aren't close with your dad? Is there a story there?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah. If I'm honest, it's my mum and dad split when I was literally really young. I'm gonna say around 2.
Okay.
And yeah, my dad's he's always been in my life until a couple of years ago now, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, 5 years ago. I'm gonna guess something, then it'll make sense more to say stuff, I guess. But he's never met my 3-year-old son, so it's at least 3 years, and my 7-year-old daughter. It was a very distant relationship that he had with her. I've never actually admitted this, and now I'm admitting it all on here, which I'm happy to do anyway. But because I didn't have the best upbringing with my dad when I was young, and I didn't have the father figure that I, let's say, wished I had. When I say wished, it's the father figure that I see my friends have. Yeah, so because I didn't have that, I've always been very, very aware that I want my children to have the father that I never had.
Yeah.
And because of that situation, I've been very, very cutthroat with my dad when I didn't see that. You know, and so for example, like I say, he's never met my son, who's 3, and my daughter, like I guess without going into too much depth and detail of it, he didn't treat her the way I would treat my son's daughter. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And I know we can all say that we're all different, but family and love should always come first, in my opinion. Like it's and that being said, although I now don't speak to my dad, it sounds like I'm hypocrite.
Was that your own decision, your own choice? Yeah.
I mean, we come head to head, but you know, it's one of those things like in life, isn't it, where people think that blood, you know that whole like blood's thicker than water sort of saying. Of course it is, and I agree, and I get it. But actually, sometimes in life, you realise that even your blood, you aren't compatible with. And if you're not, I'm very, very strong-minded on the fact that if you want to live a happy life, you've got to be around the right people.
100%.
And unfortunately, if your blood sometimes aren't the right people for you, and they're not serving you well, they're not lifting you up, they're not, you know, the right people around you, then why should you spend time with them? In a nutshell, that's why me and my dad don't speak, if you like. It's something that, it obviously still upsets me, because it's not something I planned to ever be, but that's life.
You felt like that was the right decision for yourself and your family.
Yeah.
No,
but
I understand in the sense that what you're saying, even though they're your blood, your family, sometimes it's better to just cut ties, and if it's what am I trying to say?
The thing is, it's sad, isn't it? And whoever was to think about that story, it's sad and it's not nice to hear, or you know. But at the end of the day, you when you grow up, you realise there's people that care, people that don't. You know, and you can't spend too much time with people that don't care, because you're not going to get anywhere. And
it's only going to bring you down.
Yeah, you know, like I'm very self-driven, I'm very self-made, if you want to put it like that, and I'm proud of where I am through my own drive, and actually I don't want that to be taken away from me. Like that's how I look at it, in a quite a cutthroat way of looking at it. But let's also dig into, because I want to know about, so pharmaceutically, like the direction you're going with that. What's your views? Because this is something that obviously you hear a lot about, isn't it? Like, what's your views on drugs for for the mind. Do you know what I mean? Like the mental health side of things.
I won't go into too much detail, but my personal opinion is that doctors are very quick to prescribe unnecessary medications to people that could possibly be better off trying to deal with the actual root issue, rather than, what I'm trying to say is, a lot of medications, right, they mask the symptoms but they don't treat the cause.
Correct.
So yeah, I say with things like depression or anxiety, I understand everyone's brains work differently, and some people really don't have the capacity or the strength in themselves to deal with the problem alone, or via therapy, or cognitive behavioral therapy, anything like that. They think, what, I'd be much happier. I could be in a better place if I was medicated, just to help me. So yeah, I know everyone's different. In my opinion, I would stay away from any sort of mind altering medications that I could see myself dealing with just without them, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Obviously, there's so many people in the world with their own opinion, because everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But unfortunately, it's hard for, I feel like we're on the same sort of like page with this as well, but it's hard for people like us to see people choose the quick route.
Exactly, that's what it is.
When actually, it's not even a route. It's just, like you say, masking it. Do you know?
No, that's exactly what it is.
I always think of analogies, and I've never really thought about it like
people
this.
Are always trying to find like quick, easy solutions to anything in life, not even just for
fat loss.
Fat loss, exactly. Crazy, actually. So, type 1 diabetics completely rely on this injection called semaglutide, or also known as Ozempic, right? It's sold out everywhere in the UK because in America people have been advertising it as a weight loss injection, a weight loss drug.
Wow.
And now people are coming to our pharmacy, patients, and they're just like, what do you mean they're out of stock? I need them to survive,
Yeah.
Diabetics.
So what does it do for, just the science behind it, what does that do for a diabetic?
So for a type 1 diabetic, what it does is it, I'm trying to remember what this is.
Testing, you know.
So what it does is it's insulin at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And type 1 diabetics don't have a working pancreas. Pancreas is produce insulin.
Yeah.
So what it does is it just helps to clear the glucose from the bloodstream.
Right. So that is insulin.
That's what it is.
Is that an insulin's like form name then?
It comes in the
Oh, it's under the family of insulin.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Got you.
Yeah.
That's where it threw me. Right. Got you. Right. So they can't even they can't even have the drug that they need because people in America are being crazy bastards.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
So for normal people, they use it as like an appetite suppressor.
Yeah.
Because it works in the brain to.
Yeah.
I don't really know the full depths of it, but people are using it basically to not feel as hungry. And I guess when you have, when your body's producing more insulin and clearing that glucose, I guess you can get away with eating more sugar.
So that.
Don't take my word for it. I haven't done that much research on it, but that's basically more or less what it is.
So when you're looking at that there, then so because let's just call Joe Fatty, right? So because Mr. Joe Fatty doesn't want to do anything that's too out of his comfort zone and hard, he's having this insulin to suppress his hunger.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually, he's killing other people.
Have some
That's the
self-control in it, mate.
It's crazy.
That's the thing. People are
Handcuffs. Tape on the mouth.
People are so quick to find the easy solutions.
And as much as I'm all about getting where you want to be, it's like I've said this before, and it's just a very funny, quick story. But like, I couldn't get in the army initially because I didn't have the grades. So I paid somebody.
Oh God!
Well, I paid somebody to sit down and pretend to be me, and
you got away with that.
Yeah, but my point is here. The reason I'm saying that little bit of a story there is because I'm all about the whole like get shit done. Because if you want to get somewhere, but then actually having that mindset of that shortcut feeling when it's actually not the best way of doing it becomes more of a weakness than than a solution to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because also I'm talking about the Ozempic here, the injections. So type 2 diabetes, obviously, genetics play, a massive role in that. If your family, if it's basically if you're predisposed to type 2 diabetes, obviously you need to be really careful about your diet and your lifestyle. But I guess people are just lazy. I don't know what it is, but then they end up being diabetic.
It's a lazy mindset, isn't it? And that's the thing. When you get taught something or when you're programmed in such a way, but this is like, it's a little bit like the whole, like, quote unquote, people of this day and age, people your age and people younger, like, you are born into a world where everything is click your fingers, it's done. Yeah. So this is why, and I mean this when I say this, I feel sorry for the young people nowadays because they're getting all the shit and the stick when actually they don't know any different. And that's why, hence things like, this and some of the work that I do with people, I try and educate people and help people to understand that you can still, how do I say it without it sounding too shitty, like, but you can still achieve what you want to achieve without, without backing down from it. You don't have to go, oh, this shit's too hard now, so how do I get around it? It's like people nowadays, if it's raining, they're like, fuck, I'm not going outside. Do you know what I'm trying to say though? Like, it's just a random scenario, but it's that whole mentality of, I can't do it because of this. Well, you fucking can do everything. It's because you're choosing not to, and you're in that world of, things.
It's all about the mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's because everything's done by the click of the fingers, isn't it? But so something obviously that's interesting to look at, and I think it'll be really good to dig into. So you've been diagnosed with ADHD. How long have you been?
You know what? I was only diagnosed recently at university.
Yeah.
I don't know what made me decide to get diagnosed. I knew that there was something different about me, since I was really small, and so at
still are quite small. You mean really
growing up, I guess you could say I felt like I had depression at school. The interesting thing about ADHD though is that you often are misdiagnosed with depression before you actually become diagnosed with ADHD. That's just because ADHD comes with,
a lot of different.
Yeah, a lot of other issues. So I was diagnosed at uni, and to my surprise, I scored 18 out of 19 on the what's it called? Like this.
The pre-assessment one.
I don't know what it is. 18 out of 19 on the ADHD assessment that I had to complete with my psychiatrist. So my doctor and I, after the diagnosis, we discussed treatment options, and he suggested, why don't you try some medication? Never really thought about it until recently. I know I was obviously talking about how I don't really agree with like mind-altering medications. So I'm actually in the process of being titrated on some medication, simply because I'm curious to see if this medication would benefit me. If the benefits would outweigh the negatives. Because more or less at the end of the day, this medication, it just increases your dopamine, and as you know, people with ADHD, they have a deficiency in dopamine, and dopamine sort of it affects your attention, your focus, a lot of things, a lot of executive cognitive sort of functions. So I'm interested to see how it affect me, if it would benefit me in any way. But
So obviously you've already tapped into something I was going to say, because if you're against that, why are you for on this?
I've been against it for a very long time, but sometimes I go through these phases of feeling really down, and I realise, I don't know, 99% of the time I'm fine, I'm happy, but then it's the little things that put me down. How say like it affects my work, my job, and even my studies. The lack of focus, the lack of attention, my emotional instability. You know, it feels like it's just a spiral sometimes, and I don't know. It's just something that I thought, you know what?
You need to tick off, like you feel that sort of like you need to try it.
Yeah, I might as well try it because obviously I've studied pharmacy, and I've studied like the pharmacology of drugs and what actually is in a drug, and Elvance, if you heard, yeah, Elvance, Zagatin, these ones are, you know, they more or less all they do is just increase your dopamine. So I understand how it works, and because I'm comfortable, I'm comfortable with using a drug that I know, like I know how it works, so I'm not really concerned about it. But say, you know, going back to talking about like depression and anxiety, these medications just, they have so many side effects, as I'm sure ADHD medications do too. But it's like people are so quick to just like we were talking about, going towards like an easy fix, when you don't even know what's in this pill. You don't really know how it's affecting you.
But you're happy to just go, yes.
Yeah, you're happy to just put it in your mouth and just get on with your day.
I actually had one of my athletes. He went into the doctors he was struggling to sleep. He's a big guy, obviously he's like 130 something kg. You know, he's a big guy, not fat, muscle, but still big, right? And he was struggling to sleep, and I spoke to him about getting a CPAP machine to help him, you know, oxygen through the night. He ended up walking out with antidepressant pills.
Oh dear.
I was like, hold on a minute, how did this happen? When I say walked out of them, he didn't accept them, but that's what they ended up doing. I got him to go there because you can buy a CPAP machine, right? But it's quite expensive, so it's like, look, try and get through NHS if you can. You know, they wouldn't give him through that, but they'd done a round circle and come back to the reason of you're probably anxious and depressed. That's why you're not sleeping.
Okay.
And it's just like, wow.
So instead of, that doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't make sense, but it just shows, doesn't it, how quick. And this is the unfortunate part about the you know, why GPs get so much stick, and it's all because, in my opinion, it's a very opinionated thing to say, but GPs get this shit stick because they're not actually specialists in anything. You know, and that's not shooting them down, because I'm sure they're very good at certain things, and they have to be there to filter things down from the start. But they should, in my opinion, because I run the NHS, they should be there to filter them down to a specialist.
100%.
Yeah, like it's
other methods,
I don't know if this
before
is too obvious to say, but they're doing the job that they shouldn't be doing, in my opinion. That's why everyone's walking out of the doctors with antidepressant pills.
I've heard so many stories of people going to see a GP and just saying something as simple as, I'm stressed. Okay, here's some antidepressants. I'm going to write you a prescription for some antidepressants, but it shouldn't be like that.
No.
Instead, they should be asking, why do you think you're feeling depressed? Why do you feel anxious? Can I refer you to a therapist, maybe? Someone that can actually talk you through the cause of
in that.
Yeah, exactly. The cause of, you know, how you're feeling. Instead of, but unfortunately, it's a money-making scheme.
It is.
The NHS.
It is sad. But it's like before I got diagnosed with ADHD, I was diagnosed with bipolar. Oh. So for years, since I left the army till very recent, I thought I had bipolar. You know, I wasn't medicated with it. It's something called cyclothymia, which is like pre-exposed bipolar, if you want to put it like that. It's something that's manageable, but that was it. All my life I was like, I've got bipolar. You know, until you then find out, actually, when I then I studied ADHD myself first because of just looking at things, then realised it, then went and got diagnosed with it, and then we're like, yes, you definitely got it. And then it's like a new sort of like spin, isn't it? And looking into it. But, you know, on the drug side of things, like, it's something that I want to bring up for everybody else, really, is that drugs work for some people, they don't work for others.
100%.
You know, and I think, you know, what you're doing right now is something that I did, and it was like, I'm going to try it because I want to know what it can do.
Yeah, out of curiosity.
Yeah, yeah.
More
Unfortunately, I found out that it wasn't the best thing for me, so then I stopped it.
Right.
And that's not, I'm not telling you this to give you any thoughts of how you're going to be, but that's just simply how I was. I felt that I was too content.
Right.
The one that really sort of like, I will say, upset me, because it's not the person I want to be, was at a competition. So England's strongest man this year, I won the first event, and after that I just felt like I didn't care. I just felt like I wasn't there. I was sleepy, I was tired, and it was all, and you know, and I look back and reflect on it now, it's all because of that whole, I was content with what I'd done. So I'd won the first event, everyone was like, fucking hell, that was great, this, that and the other, and I was like, cool, yeah, I've won. Do you know what I mean? And I didn't have that fight, but like, you know, Zach said it to me, Sarah said it to me, everyone was saying like, it's not quite.
What, do you think it's because you, as someone with ADHD, you're constantly chasing the dopamine?
Yeah.
And your dopamine levels were raised to a comfortable level, so that competing didn't really, you just, exactly like you said.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It's so interesting, and that's the thing, like, part of me, I mean, the thing is, that specifically at that competition, I came third, right? And obviously everyone's like, oh, well done for podiuming, but like, and I'll say this proudly rather than cocky and too confident, but I should have won that competition. But do you know what I'm saying? And I was a completely different person.
Yeah.
But my level of fitness and strength at that point was insane. But then to look back and think why that happened, and once I'd reflected on it, it really sort of, you know, I guess hit me and set in to realise that that's what it was. So, you know, it's one of those things, isn't it, where it's so important to feel happy, content, you know, in these things, and feel like you're not chasing something constantly, but quite simply, any form of change with neurologically is going to make you feel different, therefore the outcome is going to be different. I think something that I want to definitely point out here, though, is that I'm not saying don't go on it, to you and to anyone else that's listening, because there's no right or wrong for anyone, right? We're all different. We're all so very different. And that's why, as well, it's so important to know that when you all of a sudden realise you have ADHD, I'm actually stealing something from Chloe here. You have ADHD, you are not ADHD. Yeah. And it's important, though, isn't it? Like, it's like you have autism, you have OCD, you have a penis.
That doesn't make it your personality.
You don't mean you're a dick because you've got a dick.
But you know what? Diagnosis, like self-diagnosis. Sorry, being diagnosed is probably like the best thing that I ever did, because it made me just more self-aware, and I was able to, like, I did some research after my diagnosis, and I tried to implement new ways into managing my condition, rather than thinking, oh, I'm just gonna get a prescription for medication.
Yeah.
I thought, what are some good ways to better manage my condition
where you are now?
Yeah.
I think as well, it's so important to, so for me, I'm just using me as my example because I know myself the best, I guess. Like, when I found out I had ADHD, it was no surprise whatsoever at all, right? And saying to people around me, however, it was important that I reflected on what that meant, and then understood sort of like, and then delved into understanding if I've done enough within my lifestyle to help ADHD. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And it goes down to the little silly things like we've spoke about before, like, you know, like, for example, in my diary it says eat, you know, and people go, that's just funny because you're telling yourself to eat. But the thing is, and again, this is like I mean, I'm not saying that if you write in your fucking diary things like that, it means you've got ADHD. But my point is, they're managing strategies. Yeah.
Things that I believe you should do first before considering.
That's my point. Yeah, and that's
medication.
my point. So when you look at it, and like when I know that how well organised I am, to the extent I'm able to be. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. I ventured into it, and when you've ticked off all these boxes, for me, that was when it was like, right, I will try medication. You know, but the reason I'm saying this and voicing this out for other people as well is because if you're that sort of person that goes, right, I've got ADHD, I'm just going to jump straight on medication. It's like, make sure you have your shit under control first. Definitely. You know, go and do the research on. I'm not a massive fan of CBT, if I'm honest. That's from self experience, but But go and try things like CBT. Go and try therapy. Try coping strategies and mechanisms before you just go, right, I'm jumping on a pill.
Do you know what as well? ADHD medications, it doesn't just completely erase your ADHD.
100%, yeah.
There are external things that you need to do to change in your life to better manage your condition, and then medication is sort of like an additional thing on the side.
That's ADHD. No, but you think about it, I was just saying that.
No. Oh, that's what I was going to say. So for my final year project at uni, obviously I know it's pharmacy. It's mildly pharmacy related because it's to do with medication. But I actually studied sort of the effects and the importance of physical exercise on ADHD.
You told me this before, yeah.
And it's crazy because the results, the studies that I sort of collated and produced like a meta-analysis for, they all say you need to exercise.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things. Let me just think about this before I say it. So there are so many things that you can do outside of taking medication that it can just completely it can just improve your overall well-being and your,
I guess your like thought strategy and things like that as well. Like, because there's a lot of people that have ill way of thinking because they're not in the healthiest place mentally,
right,
because they're not physically in a healthy place. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So being physically healthy means that you are then more likely to be mentally healthy as well.
Oh, 100% actually. So
and it
that's
carries
actually
on.
Yes, that's why I looked into physical activity, like the effect of physical activity on the mind of someone with ADHD, and it does so much for you. I looked into sort of the effects on executive function, so things like emotional control, time management, impulsivity, things like that. Obviously, things that we experience on the daily, just having ADHD, and so the studies that I looked into compared like adolescents or just children that did exercise and weren't taking any medication but did exercise, and then those that didn't, and it was a massive difference, and it just goes to show, don't be so quick to find that easy solution. Just before you go to a healthcare professional, just think about what you can do for yourself to I guess improve your own mental health, your own well-being.
Before you jump the gun.
Yeah, exactly. And the problem is, though, that people, I mean, you trust a healthcare professional, wouldn't you? You go to the doctors, they have degrees, they have the experience, and you are quick to just to trust their judgment over your own. And if they say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to prescribe," this is the right thing to do. You don't think you don't think anything of it, do you? You just think, "Oh, okay, I will take medication because my doctor says so, and my doctor has a degree," you know.
Yeah.
But really, you've got to be really careful, because I think people
it's true.
aren't aware of sort of what these doctors are doing, or you know what I'm trying to say. But.
Yeah. The thing is, they're not necessarily doing it and realising it. And again, it's down to that whole, like, their own experiences. And without being too controversial here when I say this, like, I had an experience where I was told on medication that if I feel like I'm running low on, like, energy, to have more sugar. Right?
Yeah.
Now, as somebody that studies the body and understands a lot about nutrition, to then be told that, so this person's a pharmacist.
Oh, you spoke to a pharmacist, was it? Sorry.
I feel like it would be. Who's the person that prescribes you a drug?
Oh, doctors.
Right.
The GPs.
Okay, but it's not used. It's not that word. It was another word. It was a psychiatrist. No.
Oh, okay, psychiatrist.
Yeah, psychiatrist. Yeah. So this psychiatrist told me that if I was to feel like the medication is I was taking a dip and I was losing my energy because there's ephedrine in it, isn't there?
Right.
Yeah. If I was to lose my energy, then take some sugar to spike my energy back up. Now, like, you're telling the wrong person this, right? She's never met me before. I've only ever spoke to her over the phone. She knows what I do as a profession, yet she still chose to tell me that. And the thing is, she might feel she's right by saying that to pick my energy back up, but you're also, whilst you're doing that, you're teaching me to basically graze on sugar to keep my energy up. You know, again, she probably doesn't know the damage of what she just told me, but tell that to the wrong person, and you've now just got somebody hooked onto sugar. You know, I know that sounds a bit extreme to say it like that, but it's true, right?
It's true.
You're, and this is where people are crossing the boundaries of their own profession, and actually you're saying the wrong stuff because you just thought it was the right thing to say. Well, just thinking it was the right thing to say is not good enough when you're talking to people that are, like you're saying, trusting you to tell them the right thing.
Exactly.
You can't guess on the right thing.
So, no, that's really interesting.
Yeah, but there's there is so much with that though, isn't there? And I think it's, you know, the way I'll wrap up on that is, well, let me know how you feel on your medication and stuff, and obviously, you know, it'd be interesting to know how you feel as you go through that process with yourself, and yeah, it'd be good to sort of know your outcome and where you go with that, because you may take it and feel absolutely amazing and then think you are glad you took it, and do you know what I'm trying to say? It's so different for everybody, isn't it?
That's the thing. So what we just discussed earlier about how you felt like you were too content when you compete. I'm very serious about my sport, and I feel like in some ways ADHD gives me that edge, and it pushes me beyond my limits sometimes. And I feel like if I am on medication, these are some sort of things to I'll have to consider and take some time to think about. You know, is being on medication like the right choice for me? But I won't let anything like a drug get in my way of success. You know, one day I want to be like number one, you know, in the world, and I feel like my ADHD definitely is playing a part in that.
And I agree, and I strongly believe that. So, but it'd be good to see, you know, where you go with all that sort of side of things as well. So we're gonna have to wrap for now. But tell us, like, what's next for you? Where you going? What comps have you got coming up? You're actually moving home, aren't you?
I am. I'm really sad to go.
I'm sad to see
I've
you
really
go,
enjoyed it here, and it was really nice meeting you and meeting everyone that, you know, everyone.
You're
here.
always welcome back, just so you know. And Kent's not far away, is it? So,
Nah, it's fine. Yeah.
If you're ever in the area, you're more than welcome to come to the gym.
No, I love this gym, honestly. And what I really like about you as a gym owner is that you think. What am I trying to say? Oh my God, sorry.
You spoke too much.
Maybe we should just stop right now.
You lose your words.
Oh dear, it's been really difficult to pay attention for this long, I'm telling you. No, you really care about your members here, and you know, there was this thing, there was this email that went around to all of your members. Oh, what would you like to see here in this gym?
Yeah.
And we all said, because there's a lot more powerlifters training here now, even though this is primarily a strongman gym, isn't it? Yeah. And we said, it would be nice to have another combo rack, you know, a competition powerlifting rack. Next week I see a second rack in the gym. Honestly, you're so good to us.
I appreciate
I'm going to miss that, honestly.
Well, you're always welcome back. So, you know, it's the aim. The aim is to make the best possible environment for everyone, even people that do
it's sumo.
Sumo. Screwed that up. But no, really appreciate it, and thank you very, very much for coming on. And I mean it when I say it. Thanks for sharing your story, and you know. You don't think it's a story, but it is a story because it's you and it's who you are, and I appreciate it. And obviously, I look forward to seeing you in the IPF, absolutely smashing it.
Yeah, that's it. 2 weeks. In 2 weeks and 2 days, I'm going to be at All England's.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Where's that?
Manchester.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'll look out for it. We'll get on the stream. Where can people find you as well? Like Instagram is your main place, is it? It's
pretty much my only place. That's the only social media I have. Yeah, Mona_lifts on Instagram. Give me a follow.
Follow your journey, and hopefully we'll see you on the big stage.
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on, Dean. Thank you.
Thank you very much.